Hi, this is Olaf and welcome to episode 4 of my journey to the Ironman World Championships in Kona and St. George 2022. Alright, first of all I wanted to give you a little bit of post-race thoughts that I had since the race at Ironman 70.3 Puerto Rico last week. So as you know, the race went really well. I won my age group, finished 4th overall, which for a 50-year-old like me is a pretty cool achievement. But there's always something that you can learn from a race, and I really wanted to share a little bit more now that I had time to digest everything. So first of all, the location and the race really outstanding. I really loved it. Very beautiful. Everything is easy access. It's great for spectators. People are nice. Puerto Rico is a great mix between US, Spanish, and sort of black culture. So it's really very nice, and and we really loved it. So if you have the chance, do that race. Put it on your bucket list. In terms of improvements, what were my thoughts? So I would say number one is pace the race even a bit better, and by that I mean maybe go a little bit less hard at the beginning of the bike. It's really hard to hold back, but I hate it when I see in the last 25% of the race the watts drop by quite a bit. I don't think it's ideal to have 270 at the beginning and 230 watts at the last quarter of the race, and so really holding back even more at the beginning versus the last 25% of the bike, I think would be better. Even more important for St. George, the World Championships, because for almost 75% of the race it's quite rolling, and then the hard stuff begins. So if you have at least 10-15 watts more that you can push over those difficult parts at the end, I think that's going to make a quite big time difference. On the run, on the other hand, in hindsight, I felt I was maybe being a little bit too conservative. Now, next race is a full Ironman, so there it's typically you have to be conservative, and on top of it, Puerto Rico was not that hot because there were some clouds. But in St. George, probably also not going to be that hot. But maybe for a World Championship, maybe be a bit more aggressive on the run in the first half, because I don't think it's normal to have the last 25% be the fastest bit of your run. So that. You should be a bit more tired than that at the end, or slow down a bit more, I suppose, for optimal performance. But those are my thoughts on the race pacing. Everybody says it, but at the end, even I did it again. Don't try anything new on race day. Even if it's small things. I had this flask. I put some gels inside, some liquid gels, and then I put some High Five Zero tablets in there, and obviously I never tried this before, and the flask sort of exploded in my morning bag on my way to transition, and then I had I had nothing. I had no gels and no tablets. So Maggie was able to bring me something, but these are the kind of things, try them before, do not try them on race day. Something also I found worked really well. Obviously, it's a lot of visualization I did before the race. Do not panic. The tire change. Well, in the end, I checked. It was 5 minutes that I lost, or just under 5 minutes, which obviously is a lot in a full Ironman. Relatively, it's not that much, but still 5 minutes. It's like a penalty. So it's it's really quite significant, and I was quite proud of myself not to panic, getting the job done. From that experience, I also am definitely going to take a second repair kit with me, maybe even a third CO2 cartridge, because I would have needed another one. My back tire that I fixed and that I blew up again with the CO2 cartridge would not have lasted the 180k. So I will definitely do that in the next race. Be even more conservative in terms of planning your activities. In the last 3 days, as I mentioned, I had quite a lot of do on the Friday, which was not ideal. And then what worked really well was I completed all my training before the race. I was really focused on recovery. I was not so focused on nutrition. I wanted to make sure I had enough calories, and I think I'm gonna continue with that. And those are my top learnings from 70.3 Puerto Rico. That overall, as I mentioned, went super well. 6 weeks away from the Ironman World Championships in Utah in St.George. So getting closer for sure. Hasn't been an easy week. After my race in Puerto Rico last weekend, I actually felt great. I don't think I've ever felt that great after a race. I had no pains. I didn't lose any toes. Whether it's a little bit, one of my big toenail joint was a little bit sore. I felt it also during the race, but it was really minor and no muscle ache whatsoever. I didn't feel tired. So it was great. But as usual, after all the adrenaline, after the caffeine wears off, plus the travel back on Monday and Tuesday here to Martinique. On Wednesday, Thursday, I basically started to feel something, human after all. So I've been a little bit tired, although we haven't really done too much intensity, but I'm definitely feeling the after effects of the race. Total, we've done 24 hours, which is not small. So I'm going through that. Also, I lost some weight. I don't understand why, because I felt like I ate pizzas, hamburgers, etc. When I was in the US, when I was in Puerto Rico, and also when you travel on the way back. But apparently no. So I lost 1.5 kilos or something like that, which then also in terms of recovery I find, and the training I'm currently doing doesn't make things easier. So in terms of swim, very quickly, we've done one open water swim around the island behind me there with my coach Fred. So that was really choppy, but that was really, really cool. Otherwise it's mainly me in long sets, which pull paddles and band, and one other long session where I spent more than 2 hours in the pool, but it was lots of sprints, lots of recovery, etc. So more to recover as well. On the bike, actually stepping off the plane on Tuesday, I did a 3-hour TT session on the kicker. Then I did another 4-hour session on the kicker, which that was not the easiest one. And yesterday I did a 5-hour ride on outside, and that was really quite tough. I hadn't prepared enough drinks and carbs, so the last hour was really painful, and I really felt weak. The watts dropped quite significantly, and so it's really been eat as much as I can at the moment to recover from the trainings, and being able to get through this week. On the run, we've mainly done easy stuff, but we had one good session with 10 times 400, 10 times 300, and 10 times 200. The 400s were sort of at race pace, so relatively easy. I did them actually outside on the road. It was a little bit up and down, as you know. In St.George, the entire run is going to be up or down. So I think that's going to help me as well. I did it at lunchtime with the heat. Also get some more getting used to running in hot conditions. And that felt really good. It was with 30 seconds just walk recovery for the 400s, with 1 minute jog for the 300s, and 2 minutes jogs for the 200s. So took like an hour 10, hour 15 overall, which is so it's quite good session. And the speeds were around 355 pace for the 400s. So it's sort of race feel, I would say. Obviously I'm not going that fast in a race, maybe half, but it's more about the feeling, relatively easy. Then it was around 330 pace for the 300s, 325, and around 315 pace for the 200s. So I was quite pleased with that. Everything worked well, and wasn't too tired after that. It's more the bike sessions, the long bike sessions, that I've been struggling with a little bit this week. But overall, as you remember, my 3 top priorities: I didn't fall off the bike, I didn't hurt myself, and I did the easy stuff easy, and now it's more about making sure to recover, making sure to eat as much as I have to in order to keep my weight constant, and being able to recover well from those sessions. Right, the last thing I quickly wanted to mention was training at 50. I mean, I've been doing the sport not forever, but since 2009. So it's been 13 years now. So I've been doing it since my late 30s, which maybe to some extent is a good thing, because it is a sport that is quite taxing on the body. But 50 is quite old, especially for young people. It is old, and even I find it old when I see now the 50-54 age group. I say, fuck, I mean, this is really old indeed, but it doesn't really feel that way. People who are even older than that will tell you that in their mind, mostly things don't really change. We don't see ourselves differently, but obviously our body, etc., does change, and it's not the same anymore, and we cannot do the same anymore. So I wanted to give a little bit of insights or thoughts that I had around training at 50. And so the most important thing I find is that I'm not able to definitely smash the sessions as I used to. I remember, I really went into triathlon seriously in 2012, beginning of 2012. I was, a little bit in the mindset of, okay, you need to do 15 times, whatever, 1K. I would try out the pace and smash myself. In the first session I would maybe get 7 done and completely die after 10, and then have to stop. So maybe a little bit of that is also because I'm much better at pacing now. I know what I can sort of do in terms of intervals, but I definitely don't have the desire to completely smash myself, because I know it will also be more tough to recover and just not as pleasant anymore as it used to be over 10 years ago. So I, it's on one hand I don't really want to do it anymore, but on the other hand I also know that I couldn't do it anymore and still go through the training as I did over 10 years ago. So holding back a bit more is definitely something that I've learned that I can, and that I think you have to do when you train at over 50. The recovery is obviously really important. So I have the luxury. I try to definitely do naps whenever I can, even if it's only 20 minutes. It helps hugely, I find, to be good for the next session. And in January we really I use the recovery boots also whenever I can, every other day or so. I go to the physio once a week, so the entire TLC side of things, making sure that you that you get stronger, and that you notice when something is tight, and that you do that before it gets an injury rather than later. And to some extent I'm doing some gym work as well, which I didn't really do before. I did some core, but not as much, and not as well as now, and so that also helps me, I find, being much stronger and having less pains overall. I also would say that I have become much more comfortable. It goes a little bit with the first point I gave as well. I feel much more comfortable doing slow stuff, or things that I'm supposed to do slowly. Again, I'm the kind of athlete that likes to do every session basically as hard as they can. And before, my philosophy was always, okay, if I can do it that hard and still do the next session, as long as I can still do the next session, I should do every session as hard as I can. But that actually doesn't work so well, and doing things much below, I'm not necessarily think that everything, or 80% whatever, has to be super low and then the rest super high. So we have a more balanced mix, but definitely having some sessions where you do the easy stuff easy. I mean, it's one of my top priorities, and being much more comfortable with that, and being able to do that, and also seeing the positive effects of that, is something that I've learned late, and that I'm able, I think this year for the first time, that I'm really able to do well. And the last point maybe, and we're still early sort of in the season, but I've definitely done a little bit of less running than I've done in the biggest, doing my biggest weeks in the past. At the moment we are more up to like 65k running per week, 70k max. In the past that has been more. So I think we're also a little bit more careful there, in order to make sure not to wake up injuries, just again, which comes back to my point number one. It's always for me at least, it's always been the running where I injured myself. It's always when I've sort of pushed more than I should have, and being able to hold back more has definitely helped me reduce the risk of injury quite substantially. So for all of you guys who are out there at 50, I'm sure you're as me, you don't feel like 50. I do feel it on the bike, where I find that my watts are just a little bit lower than they used to be 5-10 years ago. It doesn't feel different at all, but the watts are just not the same. And so I just wanted to share a few of the thoughts, what to keep in mind, and what I've been focusing on at the moment, given that I'm now in the 50-54 bracket. Alright, thanks again for watching. This was episode 4. Subscribe, like, and make comments, what would you like to hear, etc. All very much appreciated, and thanks a lot for being on this journey with me, and stay tuned.